You cancel plans again tonight. Not because you are tired, because the idea of small talk feels heavier than the real work on your desk. There is a reason why some minds pull away from the crowd of moving toward it. It is not arrogance, nor a social failure. It is simply a mismatch between how your brain processes the world and how modern environments are built to be processed. Psychologists have studied this for a century, and the picture they have uncovered is stranger than the simple idea that smart people are just awkward. The first sign is that you would rather sit alone with a problem than do small talk with 5 people who keep interrupting you. That is not impatience. Studies of intelligence and social life, going back to psychologist Leta Hollingworth in the 20th century, found something surprising about highly gifted children. When a child's intelligence is above a level, connecting with peers does not become easier, it becomes harder. Hollingworth described in range, where a bright child could still find common ground. Beyond that, isolation creeps in, not because they do not want friends, because the huge gap in reference points makes daily talk feel like continual translation. The second sign is that you spot patterns before anyone else starts to explain them, and then you become frustrated while others catch up. Why does that happen? It is because speed of thinking and pattern recognition are not equal for everyone. When yours is ahead, boredom comes quickly. That boredom is not superiority. That difference matters because it changes what that frustration means. It is not that these people are below me. It is that I have already solved this now, I only have to wait. The third sign is that you ask questions that make people uncomfortable. You are not trying to be difficult. You really want to know the answer. Sociologist Linda Gottfredson studied how intelligence affects life from jobs to health. One of her findings is often ignored. Higher intelligence means a tolerance for ambiguity and complexity. Most social scripts are built for certainty. Small talk works well because no one has to sit with a question. When you keep pulling at threads others want left, you are not being difficult. You simply prefer the itch of not knowing over pretending that you do. The fourth sign hurts a little. You feel yourself when there is silence, but others see that silence as coldness. Think about what silence needs. It requires you to be comfortable with your thoughts without needing constant outside noise. For a mind that is always generating work, silence is not empty. It is very full. From outside, a quiet person at a party looks disengaged, maybe even judgmental. That gap in perception is one of the parts of this pattern, because the thing you use to recharge is mistaken for rejection. Fifth, you have learned to shrink your vocabulary, your reasoning, and even your own excitement just to keep a conversation moving. Have you ever caught yourself in the middle of a sentence, actively simplifying an idea before you have even finished thinking it? That is intellectual code switching, and it is exhausting in a way most people never have to think about. You are not hiding because you are ashamed. You are hiding because full expression tends to change the temperature of a room, and you have learned to read that temperature before anyone even says a word. So where does this pattern actually come from? If we go back further than modern psychology, we see that for most of human history, cognitive difference was not rewarded with status. It was sometimes even viewed with suspicion. Anthropological research on small-scale societies, including work summarized by psychologists like Robin Dunbar, points to something highly important. Human social structures evolved around groups of roughly 150 people. These groups were bound together by shared assumptions, shared gossip, and shared rituals. A system like that runs entirely on predictability. A mind that is constantly reorganizing information, questioning consensus, or moving faster than the group creates friction in a system that was built for cohesion, not innovation. This means the isolation you feel is not a flaw. It is a leftover. Your ancestors lived in knit bands where standing out cognitively could actually threaten group harmony. That deep social instinct to smooth over differences is still running in the background of every interaction you have. Ancient tribes needed sameness to survive. While you are living in a world of institutions, your nervous system is still partly calibrated for the campfire. Does that mean you are destined to be misunderstood? Not exactly. It just means the friction you feel has an explanation, and having an explanation completely changes how heavy that friction is to carry. Once you understand that boredom in conversation is not arrogance, that silence is not coldness, and that reaching for answers instead of comfortable ones is not a social defect. A shift happens. You stop apologizing for the shape of your mind. There is a quieter finding buried in this research that rarely makes it into conversations about intelligence. The people who eventually feel the least alone are not the ones who dim their light to match every room they walk into. They are the ones who find one or two people who do not require any translation. Hollingworth noted that gifted children who found a single peer at a similar level showed dramatically better social and emotional outcomes than those who never did. It was never about fitting in everywhere. It was always about finding. So tonight, when you catch yourself simplifying a thought before you have even said it, or turning down another gathering because the small talk feels like static, remember what is actually happening. It is not a flaw. It is not arrogance. It is a mind that is still, in some small, evolutionary way, waiting for the right kind of tribe. If any of this sounded familiar, let me know in the comments. Tell me which sign hit closest to home for you. If you want more of this, the kind of history that explains the parts of you that never quite made sense, stay close because the strangest parts of who you are usually have the most human explanations of all.